In the winter of 1812, on the frozen roads leading out of Moscow, tens of thousands of horses dropped dead in a single week. Napoleon's army did not fall apart because of Russian soldiers. It fell apart because the animals pulling the cannons, the supply wagons, and the emperor's own carriage could not survive the cold. And when the horses died, the greatest army in Europe simply stopped moving. One species, one decision to march too late in the year, and an empire that seemed unstoppable began to collapse in the snow. But to understand how a single animal could make or break an empire, we have to go back, way back, long before Napoleon, before Rome, before the pyramids, to a small, awkward creature the size of a dog, running through prehistoric forests, trying not to get eaten. Before we go there, if stories like this pull you in, hit like and subscribe now, because Origin Tales is about to take you somewhere you've never really thought about before. Most people think horses were always horses, big, powerful, majestic. They weren't. And what happened to turn a fragile little forest animal into the machine that built human civilization is stranger than anything you'd expect. 50 million years ago, in the humid forests of what is now North America, a creature called Eohippus wandered through the undergrowth. It stood about the size of a small dog. It had toes, not hooves, 4 on the front feet, 3 on the back. It ate soft leaves. It hid from predators. If you had seen it, you never would have guessed that this trembling little animal was the ancestor of the beast that would one day carry emperors, plow the fields of entire nations, and decide the outcome of wars. For millions of years, something remarkable happened. Slowly, one generation at a time, the forests began to shrink. Grasslands spread across the world, and an animal built for hiding among trees suddenly needed a new way to survive out in the open, where there was nowhere to hide from a predator's teeth. So evolution did something extraordinary. Toes fused into a single, hard hoof, perfect for running fast over open ground. Legs grew longer, bodies grew bigger, teeth changed shape to grind tough grasses instead of soft leaves. And the eyes moved to the sides of the head, giving the animal a field of vision close to 360 degrees, wide enough to spot danger approaching from almost any direction without ever turning its head. This wasn't planned. It wasn't a straight line. Entire branches of horse-like animals rose and vanished. Some grew tusks, some stayed small forever and disappeared. But one lineage kept adapting, kept surviving, kept getting faster and stronger until it became something recognizable, something we would call, for the first time, a horse. But evolution wasn't finished playing tricks. Here's where the story gets strange. This entire transformation happened in North America, the birthplace of the horse. And yet, if you had visited North America 10,000 years ago, you would not have found a single horse there, not one. They were gone, extinct on the very continent that created them. Climate change, human hunting, disease, maybe all three at once. Nobody is entirely sure. But the horse, as we know it, had already crossed a land bridge into Asia and Europe thousands of years earlier, spreading into the vast grasslands of what is now Ukraine, Russia, and Kazakhstan. And it was there, on those endless plains, that the next chapter of this story would begin. A chapter that would change the entire course of human history. For thousands of years, humans and wild horses had a simple relationship. Humans hunted them for meat. That's it. Cave paintings in France show horses being chased, speared, eaten. Nobody was riding them. Nobody was plowing fields with them. The horse was food, nothing more. Speed alone wouldn't change history. Control would. Around 6,000 years ago, something changed on the steppes of Central Asia. Nobody knows the exact moment. There was no single inventor, no flash of genius captured in a historical record. But somewhere among the Botai people of what is now Kazakhstan, someone looked at a wild, powerful animal capable of killing a grown man with a single kick and decided to climb on its back. Try to imagine that moment. No saddle, no stirrups, no bridle as we know it. Just a person and an animal 4 times their size, with the instincts of a prey species wired to panic and flee at the first sign of danger. The first successful rider must have felt something no human being had ever felt before: speed without running, power without lifting a finger. And it clearly worked, because archaeologists have found ancient horse teeth worn down in a very specific pattern, a pattern that could only be caused by a bit, a piece of equipment placed in a horse's mouth to control its movement. That tiny piece of evidence tells us something massive. Humans weren't just riding horses by accident anymore, they were domesticating them. This is the moment the story stops being about animals and starts being about power. Because once humans could ride, everything changed. A person on foot could travel maybe 20 miles in a hard day. A person on horseback could travel 60, 70, sometimes more. Tribes that had been isolated by distance could suddenly trade with each other, communicate with each other, and attack each other faster than ever before. But this was only the beginning. Because the horse didn't just change how fast humans could move, it changed who humans became. On the steppes of Central Asia, being able to ride, shoot an arrow, and control a horse at a full gallop became a way of life passed from parent to child, generation after generation, until riding was as natural as walking. And that is exactly what would eventually produce one of the most terrifying military forces the world has ever seen. Around the year 1200, a boy named Temujin was born into a world of brutal tribal warfare on the Mongolian steppe. His father was poisoned by rivals when Temujin was just a child, and his family was abandoned by their own clan, left to survive alone on the harsh grasslands. Most children in that situation simply disappeared from history, forgotten victims of a violent world. Temujin did not disappear. He grew up learning to ride before he could properly walk, a skill so deeply woven into Mongol childhood that falling off a horse was considered more embarrassing than falling on your face. By the time he became an adult, he could shoot an arrow with deadly accuracy while riding at a full gallop, something that took Mongol warriors years to master and took most other cultures on Earth an entire lifetime to even attempt. Eventually, Temujin united the fractured Mongol tribes and took a new name: Genghis Khan. What followed was not just conquest. It was a demonstration of exactly how much power a mastery of horses could unleash. Mongol armies could travel up to 80 miles in a single day, an almost unbelievable speed for the era, because each warrior carried multiple horses, switching mounts to keep them fresh, riding in relentless waves that outpaced any warning system available at the time. Entire cities would wake up to find a Mongol army at their gates with no warning at all. There had been no messenger, no scout riding ahead with news. The horse itself had outrun the warning. At its height, the Mongol Empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to Eastern Europe, the largest connected land empire in human history. Not built on gunpowder, not built on steel alone, built on hooves. But that wasn't even the horse's biggest impact on that empire. Here's the twist almost nobody expects. The Mongols didn't just conquer with horses, they connected the world with them. Along their vast territory, they built a relay system of horse stations stretched across thousands of miles, allowing messages to travel faster than at any point in previous human history. A rider could gallop to one station, hand off a message, grab a fresh horse, and keep the information moving, non-stop, day and night. It was, in essence, the first long-distance communication network in history, powered entirely by horses. Long before telephones, long before the internet, an animal was the fastest way information could travel across an entire continent. If this is blowing your mind a little, drop a comment and let me know, because we're only halfway through this story, and it's about to get even more surprising. While Asia was mastering the horse, Europe was about to redefine it completely. In medieval Europe, horses were being bred not just for speed, but for sheer size and strength, giant war horses capable of carrying a fully armored knight into battle. These massive animals, sometimes weighing over a ton, became walking fortresses. A knight on horseback, encased in steel, was for centuries considered nearly unstoppable on an open battlefield, but size came with weaknesses too. Heavy war horses were slower, more expensive to breed and feed, and utterly dependent on their environment. When gunpowder weapons began appearing on European battlefields, the age of the armored knight slowly, painfully began to fade. It seemed for a moment that the horse's role in warfare might be ending. It wasn't. It was only changing. Because across the ocean, an entirely different horse story was about to unfold. One that would transform a continent that hadn't seen a horse in 10,000 years. When Spanish explorers arrived in the Americas in the late 1400s and early 1500s, they brought horses with them, descendants of the very same species that had evolved on that continent and gone extinct there thousands of years earlier. In a strange twist of history, the horse was finally coming home. At first, horses were tightly controlled by European colonizers, a closely guarded military advantage over indigenous peoples who had never seen such an animal. But horses, being horses, occasionally escaped. Some were stolen, some were traded, and slowly, over generations, horses spread northward across the plains of North America, reaching indigenous nations who had absolutely no prior experience with domesticated animals of this scale. What happened next was one of the fastest cultural transformations in human history. Within just a few generations, nations like the Comanche, the Lakota, and the Cheyenne transformed entire ways of life around the horse. Hunting buffalo, once an exhausting and dangerous task done largely on foot, became dramatically more efficient from horseback. Warfare, trade, travel, even social status, all reorganized around who owned horses and how skillfully they could ride them. The Comanche, in particular, became such extraordinary horsemen that observers described their riding abilities as almost supernatural. Warriors, capable of hanging off the side of a galloping horse using only a loop of rope, using the animal's own body as a shield in battle. An animal, extinct on a continent for 10,000 years, returned by outsiders, and within a couple of human lifetimes became the very foundation of entirely new cultures and identities. That wasn't even the horse's biggest impact, though. While armies clashed and empires expanded, horses were quietly doing something far less dramatic, but arguably even more essential to human survival. They were feeding the world. For most of human history, farming was backbreaking, painfully slow work. Fields were plowed by human hands, or later by oxen, strong but frustratingly slow. When horses were bred and harnessed specifically for farm work, everything shifted. A horse could plow a field in a fraction of the time it took oxen, pulling heavier equipment across more ground in a single morning than a family could manage in days. Every furrow a horse carved into the soil quietly fed another family, then another village, until entire civilizations stood on fields once far too large for human hands alone to till. More food meant more children survived. More survival meant larger towns. Larger towns meant more complex societies, more specialized trades, more innovation. The horse, quietly pulling a plow through a muddy field, was just as responsible for building civilization as the horse charging into battle under Genghis Khan. Here's something most people never learn in school. Horses can sleep standing up using a locking mechanism in their legs that lets their muscles rest without collapsing, a trait built for an animal that always needed to be ready to run. And they don't forget easily either. Studies have shown horses can remember human faces for years, even after long periods apart. An animal that never forgets the people who cared for it or the people who didn't. By the 1700s and 1800s, horses were so completely woven into daily life that entire industries depended on them. Horses pulled carriages through London and Paris. Horses hauled goods across the newly forming United States. Horses pulled the first fire engines, the first ambulances, the first city buses. In major cities, horse manure became such an overwhelming problem that in the late 1800s, some experts seriously predicted growing cities would eventually be buried under horse waste, an actual crisis newspapers of the era called the Great Horse Manure Crisis. And then, almost overnight in the span of human history, everything changed again. The automobile arrived. This is where history takes an unexpected turn. Within just a few decades, cars, trucks, and eventually airplanes began replacing the horse's role in transportation. An animal that had shaped human civilization for thousands of years suddenly rendered largely unnecessary for everyday travel. Entire industries built around horse care, breeding, and transport simply collapsed, put out of business by machines that never needed rest, never needed feeding, and never got tired. You'd think that would be the end of the story. The horse, having built empires, fed civilizations, and carried humanity across every continent, quietly retired into history, replaced by engines and steel. But that's not what happened. And this is the twist that changes the entire meaning of everything we've covered so far. Because even as machines replaced horses in almost every practical function they once served, humans refused to let the animal disappear. Horses didn't vanish. They transformed once again into something new. Today, horses are used in therapy programs helping veterans recover from trauma. Their calm presence and sensitivity to human emotion proving remarkably effective in ways modern medicine still doesn't fully understand. In fact, horses are known to read human emotional states through posture, breathing, and even heart rate, responding to fear or calm before a person ever says a word out loud. Horses remain essential in remote regions of the world where roads don't exist and machinery can't reach, still carrying goods, people, and hope across mountains and deserts exactly as they did thousands of years ago. Police departments in cities around the world still use mounted units, not because horses are more efficient than cars, but because a person on horseback commands a kind of visible authority and calm crowd control no vehicle can replicate. And perhaps most strikingly, in an age of artificial intelligence and self-driving cars, humans still choose by the millions to spend their weekends riding horses purely for the joy of it, not for war, not for survival, just for the simple, ancient feeling of connection between a human being and an animal that has walked beside us since the very beginning of civilization. Think about that for a moment. We built airplanes that cross oceans in hours. We built rockets that reach the moon. And yet we never fully let go of this animal. Why? Remember Napoleon, standing in the frozen ruins of his own campaign. He lost an empire because horses could no longer move. Yet for thousands of years, before that single terrible winter, those same animals had carried civilizations forward, one rider, one plow, one relay station at a time. The very thing that ended his ambition had built the world he was trying to conquer in the first place. Maybe the relationship between humans and horses was never really about speed or war or conquest at all. Those were just the roles the horse happened to fill because we needed it to. The deeper truth might be something else entirely. That somewhere in our shared history, humans and horses learned to trust each other in a way that few other species ever have. A wild animal, capable of fleeing or fighting, chose instead, generation after generation, to carry us, to pull our plows, to charge into our battles, to walk quietly beside a grieving veteran, learning to feel safe again. Before engines built the modern world, horses did. Empires weren't built on steel first, they were built on hooves, and through all of it, the horse never asked for anything except food, care, and the occasional moment of freedom to run. So the next time you see a horse, maybe standing quietly in a field or trotting through a city park, remember this: that animal's ancestors were the size of a house cat, hiding from predators in ancient forests. That animal's ancestors carried the greatest conquerors in human history. That animal's ancestors fed empires, built nations, and connected a scattered human species across continents no one thought could ever be linked. A creature the size of a dog running for its life 50 million years ago somehow became the single most influential animal in the history of human civilization. What do you think the next chapter of this story looks like? Do you think horses still have a role to play in our future, or are they destined to become a beautiful memory of what once was? Let me know in the comments, because I genuinely want to know what you think. If this story changed the way you look at something you thought you already understood, that's exactly what Origin Tales is here for. Hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one, where we uncover another story hiding in plain sight.